Another video for Flutter. My name is Khaled, and today I'm gonna talk about the null safety feature that has been going around for quite some time, and what is it, why it's important, and when it will be available for us on a stable release. So to give you a brief about myself, my name is Khaled Ahmed. I'm located in Dubai. I'm a member of GDG Dubai, and I like to do a lot of programs using Flutter. Flutter is an amazing tool. I have been working on a lot of apps using Flutter for the last 2 years, and I'm rapidly uh, following up with the Flutter development and involvement around the past 2 years. So to get this started, we need to speak about what is null safety. Null safety is a feature is added as a guarantee inside the programming language that it's said or it's state that there is no object will have a null or a void value, which means that this is a compile time, and during compile time we say to the compiler that all our variables should not have any null values, and this is a big thing to have. So why is null safety? There's two common types of errors we could face while we do the programming, and one of them is the runtime error, which we are facing a lot when we just run our program and everything seems okay, and then we hit by a null error during the application running. And the other type is a compile time, which is coming through our programming. So when we do the programming itself, when we do the coding, the compiler say that, wait, there is some error here and it should not be that way. So basically, as Dart is a type language, when we specify, for example, a variable with an int, we cannot assign a string to it, and we will be faced by the compiler that this variable cannot be assigned to a string while it was int before. So most of the errors issued and raised while the runtime, and we have the ability to ensure that, to avoid that, by having such a feature in the language like this null safety. Of course, we can do some things to make sure that this would not happen by putting, for example, asserting that this variable will not be null, and then we can do that. But this would be coming through our own, and when the program coming so big and a lot of variables coming there and become so much big, we will not be able to handle this properly. So having the null safety thing would be a big thing inside our language feature. So to get this or to demonstrate this, we can go to the new or the versioning of the Dartpad, which recently have been released, which is nullsafety.dartpad.dev. And as we might see here in our code snippet here, this is a main function which have an integer, a variable a as an integer, and we're trying to specify, or we're trying to set a null to this variable, which getting us an error down, because it's mentioning here a value of type null cannot be assigned to a variable type int. Why is that? Because we are using the null safety feature inside Dart here. So to ensure or to make this error goes away, we need to set here an int, not a null. For example, if I will put it as a 3 here, the error will goes away, and if we run it, the console should be printing our result here, which is 3. So by telling the compiler that this variable, or we enabling the null safety, we ensure that this integer will never have a null variable. So for that, the compiler is telling us that there was an issue here, that this variable cannot be null, and based on that we can avoid having a null values by that. Sorry. So so when we have a null safety, we say that all our variables should not have null. Okay, but what about if we want to have some nullable variables? So if we want to have some variables that can be null during our coding, which for example that we have here in that example, we have a 3 list of strings, and this list have a nullable string in the middle, and we have here the compiler complain that there is a null inside and we cannot use that thing. So to do that, we can put an operator after having this list, which is telling that the compiler that this list might have a null here. So when we put it as it is, put the question mark after the string type or after the variable type, we're saying that this list might have a null inside. So after doing that, we will find that this error goes away from here, but we still have an error here because it's mentioning here that the non-nullable local variable and must be assigned before it's used. So we have here another error. We can just remove this two bracket from here, and as we might see here, let me redo that from the beginning. So it's mentioning here it will be a non-nullable coming here, so we have a null here. So what we can do about this a non-nullable here, a string. So we have here, for example, this is a non-nullable list of strings that we put it. So we need to declare non-nullable. It should be, this is a non-nullable list of strings. So if it's like that, we should put, to fix it, we should initiate it here. So our errors goes away because now we have the list should not have null. And here we're mentioning that the list might have null a string inside. So we put the potential with this question mark or this marking here, we're mentioning that the list should or might have a null variables, and our errors goes away. So if we run that, we'll find the results coming that we have here an empty list. It's not null anymore, and we have a list here which is fully not null, and we have a list of nullable strings after we have declared this or put this question mark on the type. So with that, we need to also look at two keywords that have been added. The required was already there, but we would putting it as @required for the required parameters, and now it's just required, and we have something called late. So if you move here to another example before going to that, we would have like some errors here. So we have one error here coming from the B because we have here a list. We said that we should have a list of int, might be nulls, but we're calling the first one, and the first one here we have an error here. It's mentioning that a value of type int cannot be assigned to a variable of type int. So to ensure that this variable, we know, for example, if we know for sure that our variable have, or our this variable have a valid type and not null, because here we defining an integer and it should not have any null, we can put this exclamation mark which is saying that I'm for sure saying that the first element of this list will not have null, and our error goes away. The second would be coming the same that we have here also. We have could return a null, but it doesn't. If it's also doesn't, so we can put also this exclamation to say that this for sure it will not return a null. So because we're declaring the variables here, which is should be not nullable, we have to make sure that our int or our assigning variable should not have a null by ensuring that with this exclamation mark. Okay, so going back to this example here, and we have here a string which is description, but we didn't initiate it, so it should have a null value. But at the same time, we don't want to initiate it at the beginning. So to resolve this issue, we can put a late keyword. So with putting a late, we say to the compiler that we will do the setting or initiation or setting that variable, but it will be in later stage, not now. So we have here this class which is setting the description after a little bit time. So when we put the late keyword, it will tell the compiler to ignore the initiation of this, and it will be later set in a later time, which done here when we initiate our class. We have here a class. So for example, if we have another variable which is name, and we have a constructor which is taking the name and the description. Okay, if we added it like that, we cannot have an optional, because now we're saying that this values might be null. And to make sure that the compiler will not scream on us and tell that this parameter should not have null, we need to make it as required. So before we would write required like this, but for now with the new release we will put required only like that, and also we need to put required here. So we need to remove this bracket and then end the semicolon. So we're saying that both variables are required. And why is it screaming? Required. Yeah, we need to wrap it inside that. Yeah, now it's valid. So we need to wrap this inside our bracket, so it's named parameter, and we put the required keyword. But we will find here that we have an issue because we need to initiate. So for example, if I want to initiate this class, I need to put it in the constructor. So I need to put the name and the description. So I'll say description new meal, and the name would be the best meal. So now our errors goes away. So the null safety feature is on the dev and master channels, and is planned to be released by during the end of 2020. The team working very hard at Google for finishing up the final touches and making everything stable for it. But by the time of this presentation, it's still experimental, and it's not production ready. So it's not recommended that you use it on the production until it shift to a stable channel and have been declared by the Flutter team that it's stable. So to sum things up, the null safety feature is a big thing or big milestone inside Dart that it will ensure that we have compile time checking for all our variables, and we will be having more control, and we will avoid this nasty runtime errors that we are facing while running our application. And this is gonna be a very good addition to the Dart and Flutter development. So with that, I would be closing my presentation. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you have question, drop it and post it in the comments. All right, see you in the next one.